Welcome back. Today we will learn about the earth-shattering revelations that are about to rock Salem to its very core during the explosive week of August 18th to 23rd, where a carefully guarded secret involving Tate Black's child threatens to destroy multiple families and expose the most twisted web of deception in the show's recent history. The devastating gender revelation that changes everything. Dr. Sarah Horton Kyriakis stands at the epicenter of Salem's most explosive secret, holding information so shocking that it has the power to instantly obliterate everything Tate Black believes about his child and his life. The truth she carries is not just surprising, it's completely earth-shattering. The child Tate has been mourning as his lost daughter is actually a son, alive and breathing right here in Salem. This revelation doesn't just contradict previous assumptions. It exposes the breathtaking cruelty and calculated precision of Sophia Choi and Melinda Trask's manipulation campaign. The psychological impact of this discovery weighs heavily on Sarah's conscience as she grapples with the moral implications of her knowledge. Every day that passes, she watches Tate suffer through fabricated grief while his biological son lives mere miles away, completely unaware of his father's existence. The medical professional in Sarah understands the importance of truth and transparency, yet she also recognizes that revealing this information could trigger a chain reaction of devastating consequences that might destroy more lives than it saves. Sarah's internal struggle intensifies when she considers the broader implications of Sophia's gender deception. This wasn't just a simple lie about adoption. It was a meticulously planned psychological warfare strategy designed to make Tate's child seem even more unreachable and lost. By convincing him he had a daughter rather than a son, Sophia created an additional layer of emotional distance that would make any accidental discovery less likely, while simultaneously playing into traditional gender stereotypes about father-daughter relationships being more emotionally complex and distant. The medical records that led to Sarah's discovery paint a chilling picture of how close Salem came to this secret remaining buried forever. Through a seemingly routine case involving DNA analysis and medical history cross-referencing, Sarah stumbled upon blood work results that created an undeniable genetic link between Tate and a young boy currently residing in Salem. The scientific evidence was so compelling that Sarah had to review the data multiple times, hoping she had made an error, before accepting the devastating reality of what she had uncovered. Leo Stark, the dangerous wild card. The involvement of Leo Stark adds an element of unpredictable danger that transforms this situation from a simple custody matter into a potential crisis requiring immediate intervention. Leo's history of manipulation, blackmail, and self-serving schemes makes him perhaps the worst possible person to have any connection to Tate's vulnerable son. The very thought of an innocent child being exposed to Leo's chaotic lifestyle and questionable moral compass creates a sense of urgency that haunts both Sarah and Brady's decision-making process. Sarah's medical training makes her acutely aware of the psychological risks that children face when placed in unstable environments with unreliable caregivers. Leo's track record of using people as pawns in his elaborate schemes raises terrifying questions about his intentions regarding the child. Is Leo aware of the boy's true parentage? Has he been planning to use this information as leverage in some future manipulation attempt? These uncertainties create additional pressure on Sarah to act quickly, even as she struggles with the potential consequences of revelation. The mysterious circumstances surrounding how the child came to be connected with Leo remain unclear, adding another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. Whether Leo discovered the truth through his own investigation, was informed by another party, or stumbled upon the information accidentally, his involvement suggests that the secret may not remain hidden much longer. Leo's unpredictable nature means that he could choose to reveal the truth at any moment, potentially in the most damaging way possible, purely for his own entertainment or benefit. Brady's knowledge of Leo's dangerous tendencies fuels his protective instincts regarding both his son and grandson. Having witnessed Leo's capacity for destruction firsthand, Brady understands that any situation involving Leo requires careful handling and strategic thinking. The possibility that his grandson might already be under Leo's influence or in his care creates a sense of desperate urgency that conflicts directly with Brady's desire to protect Tate from emotional devastation. Brady's impossible paternal dilemma. Brady Black finds himself trapped in the most challenging situation of his life as a father, forced to choose between his son's right to know the truth and his paternal instinct to protect Tate from overwhelming emotional trauma. The discovery that he has a grandson living in Salem creates an immediate desire to establish a relationship with the child, while simultaneously triggering deep concerns about how this revelation might derail Tate's carefully planned future. Brady's experience as a father has taught him that young people often make impulsive decisions when faced with life-altering information, and he fears that Tate's reaction might include abandoning his education and future prospects in favor of an all-consuming search for his son. The weight of keeping this secret creates an unprecedented moral burden that threatens to consume Brady's every waking moment. Each interaction with Tate becomes an exercise in careful self-control, as Brady must hide his knowledge while watching his son suffer through fabricated grief. The irony of the situation is particularly painful. Brady desperately wants to ease Tate's suffering by revealing the truth, yet that same truth could potentially cause even greater long-term damage to his son's life trajectory and emotional stability. Brady's decision to secretly protect his grandson represents a complex compromise between action and inaction that allows him to feel productive while avoiding the immediate risks of full disclosure. By finding ways to ensure the child's safety and well-being from a distance, Brady can satisfy his protective grandfather instincts while buying time to determine the best approach for eventual revelation. This strategy also allows him to gather more information about the child's current situation and Leo's level of involvement before making any irreversible decisions. The emotional toll of maintaining this secret creates significant strain on Brady's other relationships, particularly with those who might expect honesty and transparency from him. Brady must carefully navigate conversations about Tate's emotional state, offering comfort and support while hiding his knowledge of the actual solution to his son's pain. This deception goes against Brady's natural inclination toward honesty, creating internal conflict that manifests in increased stress and anxiety about his decision-making process. Sophia's crumbling foundation of lies. Sophia continues her elaborate performance, completely unaware that her entire manipulation scheme teeters on the brink of catastrophic exposure. Her confidence in the success of her deception has grown over time, making her increasingly bold in her fabrications about the supposed foster family in Chicago and their reasons for denying Tate access to his daughter. This false confidence becomes Sophia's greatest vulnerability, as she fails to recognize the warning signs that her carefully constructed narrative is about to collapse under the weight of undeniable truth. The psychological complexity of Sophia's continued manipulation reveals the depth of her commitment to maintaining control over Tate's emotional state. She has invested so much time and energy into perfecting her performance that abandoning the deception now would require admitting to herself the full extent of her cruelty and manipulation. This psychological investment makes it increasingly difficult for Sophia to recognize opportunities to retreat gracefully, instead driving her deeper into the web of lies she has created. Sophia's fabricated stories about the Chicago foster family have become increasingly elaborate and detailed, creating a fictional narrative so complex that she must constantly remember and maintain consistency across multiple lies. Her descriptions of the adoptive parents' supposed concerns, their reasons for limiting contact, and their decision-making process demonstrate a level of creative manipulation that borders on pathological. Each new detail she adds to the story increases the potential for contradictions that could expose her deception. The tragic irony of Sophia's situation lies in her complete ignorance of how close she is to discovery. While she focuses on convincing Tate that his child is unreachably distant in Chicago, the reality is that his son lives within walking distance in Salem. This dramatic irony creates tension for viewers who understand that Sophia's downfall is inevitable, making her continued confidence both fascinating and tragic to witness. The inevitable explosion and its consequences. The convergence of these multiple secrets during the week of August 18th to 23rd creates a perfect storm that cannot be contained or controlled by any of the participants. Sarah's moral struggle with her medical knowledge, Brady's paternal dilemma about protecting versus informing his son, Leo's unpredictable involvement with the child, and Sophia's continued manipulation all represent volatile elements that will inevitably collide with devastating consequences for everyone involved. The psychological preparation required for such revelations cannot adequately prepare any of the participants for the actual emotional impact of truth disclosure. Tate's discovery that his child is not only alive but is a son rather than a daughter, living in Salem rather than Chicago, and potentially in danger due to Leo's involvement, represents multiple layers of shock that will fundamentally alter his understanding of reality and his relationships with those who kept these secrets. The ripple effects of this revelation will extend far beyond the immediate family, affecting relationships throughout Salem's interconnected community. Friends, colleagues, and extended family members will be forced to choose sides, evaluate their own moral positions regarding truth versus protection, and deal with the aftermath of broken trust and shattered assumptions about the people they thought they knew. The week of August 18th to 23rd promises to deliver unprecedented drama as Salem residents witness the complete dismantling of elaborate deception schemes and the emergence of truth that has been buried under layers of manipulation and misguided protection. The emotional devastation will be immediate and severe, but it will also create opportunities for genuine healing, authentic relationships, and the possibility of a real connection between Tate and his son. If they can survive the explosive revelation that brings them together. This explosive week will forever change the landscape of relationships in Salem, proving once again that truth, no matter how painful, ultimately prevails over even the most carefully constructed lies. Next, break in court. Salem's secrets unravel. The day in Salem began with an uneasy calm, as though the entire town was holding its breath, waiting for the next revelation in Johnny DiMera's trial. Outside, the summer air was heavy and warm, but inside a cozy neighborhood pub, Kristen DiMera sat with her daughter Rachel, trying to create a little normalcy in the midst of the chaos. They had just come from a short shopping trip, Kristen carrying a neatly wrapped purchase under her arm. But rather than delight in their new find, Rachel's expression was troubled. She looked down at the table, absent-mindedly stirring her drink with a straw. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Kristen asked, keeping her tone light, though she already suspected the answer. Rachel sighed. "It's just, you got to go shopping, and now you have to testify at Johnny's trial. Maybe after you testify, Mom will take me shopping too." There was no mistaking the hopeful note in her voice when she said, "Mom." Rachel had been separated from her mother for too long, and the absence was wearing on her. Kristen felt her heart twist. But before she could respond, Rachel's face suddenly lit up. "I'm so happy Uncle EJ told you where she is," Rachel blurted out, her voice brimming with excitement. "I miss her so much." Kristen reached over and took her daughter's hand, trying to offer comfort. "I know you do. And we'll see her soon, I promise." Just then, the pub's door swung open, letting in a gust of warm air and the sound of traffic outside. It wasn't Brady, he was running late, thanks to a flat tire, but Kristen knew time was running short. "Rachel," she said gently, "when Brady gets here, you're going to have to come back to court with me." Rachel's eyes widened in panic. "No. I don't want to go." Her voice cracked, the weight of the trial pressing down on her young shoulders. Kristen tried to soothe her, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Meanwhile, across town Johnny DiMera had just returned home, practically bursting through the door, his face flushed with urgency. Chanel was in the living room, and she looked up from her phone, startled by his energy. "Chanel, you're not going to believe this," Johnny said, breathless. EJ had another hypnosis session, and this time, something came out. "The killer, it's a woman." Chanel's brows furrowed. A woman? Johnny, that could mean anything. I know, Johnny replied quickly, but it narrows it down. This could be the break we've been waiting for. But Chanel's mind was already racing ahead to her own place in the trial. If EJ thinks it's me, he can accuse me all he wants, she said, her voice steady, even defiant. If it helps prove you're innocent, I'll stand up there and take it. I love you, Johnny. When I testify, I'll be there beside you until this trial is finished, no matter what EJ tries to throw at me. Her words were like a vow, binding her to him through the storm ahead. At the DiMera mansion in the grand study of the DiMera estate, EJ sat alone, turning over the events of the past day in his mind. The memories of his conversation with Marlena still lingered, especially the pointed moment when he had asked if Samantha had been the one to shoot him. Just then, the door opened, and Gwen Rizek swept in. Her eyes widened, and she grinned at EJ with the excitement of someone who loved a juicy mystery. Well, you look deep in thought, she teased, making her way to the sideboard to pour drinks. EJ accepted his glass with a nod and began updating her on the latest developments. I still don't know who shot me, he admitted. But I'm certain Marlena does. Gwen leaned forward, intrigued. And why hasn't she told you? That's just it, EJ said. Whoever it was, she's protecting them. They began to eliminate suspects, one by one, playing a mental game of deduction. Sammy was quickly ruled out, leaving Gwen with a spark of mischief in her eyes. Damn, she said, her voice low with astonishment. It was Bell Black who tried to kill you, wasn't it? EJ raised an eyebrow but didn't confirm or deny. Gwen, after a pause, eventually dismissed the theory herself, but the seed of suspicion had been planted. EJ, however, was certain of one thing: if Bell had pulled the trigger, she must have had a reason. At the penthouse far away from the chattering in the DiMera mansion, Marlena Evans sat in the quiet elegance of her penthouse, her face drawn with worry. Bell was there with her, looking for answers, and perhaps reassurance. Marlena, Bell said softly, do you know who shot EJ? Marlena hesitated. She could feel the truth pressing at her lips, but she also knew the weight that knowledge would bring. Yes, she admitted finally. I know. But I have no proof. Bell's eyes searched hers. Then tell me. It's better if I don't, Marlena said firmly. You're too deeply involved in this case already. The less you know, the safer you'll be. The room was silent for a long moment, the only sound the faint ticking of a clock on the wall. Outside, the city of Salem went on about its day, unaware that the answers everyone sought were already known, but locked away behind Marlena's careful, protective silence. The storm builds as the trial loomed ever closer to its climax, the tension among these intertwined lives grew unbearable. Secrets were pressing to the surface, some just within reach, others still buried deep. For Rachel, it was the ache of missing her mother. For Johnny and Chanel, it was the hope that truth could prevail over suspicion. For Gwen and EJ, it was the thrill, and danger, of chasing an answer. And for Marlena, it was the heavy burden of knowing the truth, and choosing not to speak it. In Salem, every silence has its price. And in the days ahead, someone would have to pay.